We studied about the northern mountains and the northern plains. In this video, we are going to learn about the peninsular plateaus. Okay, this is the content page, and the topic which we are going to discuss today is the peninsular plateau. Okay, now when we are talking about peninsular plateau, let me tell you, it is a tableland. Plateau, you have already learned about what plateaus are. Plateaus are basically tablelands. In previous chapter also we have already discussed the topic about the plateaus. That a plateau is a highland with a steep slopes and a large summit area which rises abruptly from the surrounding region, and that is why plateaus are also called tablelands. And the surface of a plateau can be flat, rolling, or even hilly. And they these plateaus are having the oldest landforms. They are the oldest landforms on the earth as well. And plateaus occupy a large portion of the earth's surface, isn't it? Almost every continent has large plateaus, and most plateaus are located in the semi-arid and arid regions of the world. Some of them are found near the tropics or on the leeward side of the mountains as well. And in the previous video, in means regarding the previous chapter, we have also discussed that the plateaus have been classified on the basis of their origin and location, and they are mainly classified into intermontane plateaus, continental plateaus, and lava plateaus. So let us move on to the next slide and see, and let us discuss about the peninsular plateaus. So the peninsular plateau is a tableland basically, and is composed of igneous and metamorphic rocks. Okay, and this peninsular plateau was formed due to the breaking and drifting of the Gondwana land, and thus making it a part of the oldest land mass as well. The plateau has broad shallow valleys and rounded hills as well, and this plateau consists of two broad divisions, namely the Central Highlands and the Deccan Plateau. Okay, here is the location. You can see, let me show you the map in the next with the help of the next slide, so that you will be able to understand this better. Okay, so you can see here I have attached two maps in this particular slide. Basically, one is showing us the physical divisions, the physiographic map of India, and the other part, the other map in the slide is showing us the peninsular plateaus. Okay, the image is showing us the peninsular plateaus. So the peninsular plateau are located towards the south of the northern plains. We have already discussed about it. Here is the northern plains, okay, and the peninsular plateau is toward the south of the northern plains. You can see here in this particular image also, it is toward the south of the northern plains. Okay, and it is roughly triangular in shape. You can see here the shape of this peninsular plateau. It is triangular in shape. Okay, and it is the oldest structure of the Indian subcontinent. We have already studied about Indian subcontinent, the region, the countries consisting, the countries basically lying in this region, which are separated from rest of the world by Himalayan mountains, isn't it? India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Maldives, Sri Lanka, everything. Okay, coming on to the about the peninsular plateau, you can see here toward the north are the Aravalis, okay, the Vindhyas, the Satpuras, and the Rajmahal hills. Here is the Aravalis, okay, towards the north. The hills which are lying towards the north of the peninsular plateau are the Aravalis. Okay, here is the Aravalis. Coming on to Vindhyas, here is the Vindhyas range. Okay, Vindhyas, and then Satpuras. Here is the Satpura range. Okay, so basically these are the hills towards the north of the peninsular plateaus. and here is the Rajmahal Hills. Okay, so towards to the north of the peninsular plateau are the Aravalis, the Vindhyas, the Satpuras, and the Rajmahal Hills. Coming on to the western and eastern Ghats forms its western and eastern boundaries. Okay, here is the western Ghats and here is the eastern Ghats. They are basically uh, forming its western and eastern boundaries. Okay, and however, unlike Himalayas, these ranges have no snowfields or glaciers. Okay, these ranges have no snowfields or glaciers. Okay, whatever ranges are here in the peninsular plateaus, they are not having any glaciers or any snowfields. And let me tell you one more thing, that the average height of the plateaus ranges from 600-meter to 900-meter. Okay, and the slope is from west to east. The slope of the peninsular plateau is from west to east. Okay, and the plateaus, as I have already told, that the peninsular plateau is composed of igneous and metamorphic rocks. Okay, the plateaus are made up of igneous and metamorphic rocks. They have an undulating surface with low hills and rounded tops. And the Narmada river basically divides the entire plateau region into two parts. Okay, when we are talking about the Narmada river, I think you're able to see here, this is Narmada river. Okay, this Narmada river is dividing the peninsular plateau into two parts. The upper part is the Central Highlands and the lower part is the peninsular, sorry, is the Deccan Plateau. The part of the peninsular plateau lying to the north of the Narmada, covering a major part of Malwa Plateau, okay, is the Central Highlands, is known as the Central Highlands, and the Deccan Plateau is the triangular landmass that lies to the south of the Narmada River. Okay, the triangular landmass that lies to the south of the Narmada River is the peninsular, is the Deccan Plateau. Okay, so the Narmada rivers divides the entire plateau region into two parts, the Central Highlands and the Deccan Plateau. Let us now discuss about these two parts in brief. Let us move on to the next slide. And before moving on to the next slide, and this when before starting the discussion on the Central Highlands and the Deccan Plateau, let us go through this slide. Okay, because we have already seen it with the help of a map. Then also it is important for us to discuss these things. So the location of the peninsular plateau is to the south of the northern plains. It is triangular in shape and the oldest structure of the Indian subcontinent, basically surrounded by hills from all three sides, and the plateau is made up of igneous and metamorphic rocks. The average height of the hills here ranges from 600-meter to 900-meter. Okay, the average height of the plateau ranges bit from 600 to 900-meter, and the slope is from west to east. Okay, and the hills which are here, the plateaus which are here, have an undulating surface with low hills and rounded tops. Most rivers of the peninsular India flow into the Bay of Bengal, and the rivers basically in the northwestern part flow into the Arabian Sea. Okay, and the longest river of the peninsular India is Godavari. Which is the longest river of the peninsular India? It is the Godavari. Okay, and there are many hills we have already discussed. Toward the north is the Aravali, the Vindhyas, the Satpuras, and the Rajmahal hills. And towards the west and east, the western Ghats and eastern Ghats are basically, they are forming its western and eastern boundaries. Okay, and river Narmada divides the entire plateau, the peninsular plateau, into two parts, the central and the Deccan Plateau. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, uh, coming on to the Central Highlands. The Central Highlands form the northern part. Here are the Central Highlands forming the northern part. Okay, and they have a series of plateaus such as Malwa. Okay, Malwa, Bundelkhand, Bagelkhand, and the Chota Nagpur plateau. You can see here other plateaus are also here. Hazaribagh plateau, okay, Ranchi plateau is also a part of this particular region. So the Central Highlands are having a series of plateaus such as Malwa, Bundelkhand, Baghelkhand, and Chota Nagpur. These plateaus are made up of hard igneous rocks. So when I'm talking about the term igneous rocks, so let me tell you a bit about the igneous rocks, okay, and a bit about some rocks also. So different types of rocks are formed in different ways, okay, and they have different characteristics with regard to their composition, color, size, and texture. And on the basis of their mode of formation, there are three major types of rocks: the igneous, the sedimentary, and the metamorphic rocks. As I have already discussed, that the plateaus are made up of igneous and metamorphic rocks. So, igneous rocks are basically associated with the volcanic eruptions. They are formed when magma cools down and solidifies, and these rocks are the first to be formed, and thus they are also known as primary rocks. Igneous rocks are of two types: intrusive igneous rocks and extrusive igneous rocks. And when we will talk about the intrusive igneous rocks, so the rocks that cool below the surface of the earth are called intrusive igneous rocks. The rate of cooling is slow inside the earth, okay, and the examples of such intrusive igneous rocks are granite and dolerite. And the rocks that cool on the surface of the earth are called extrusive igneous rocks. These are basically known as the volcanic rocks as well. And basalt is an example of the rock, and the Deccan Plateau of India is made up of basalt rocks. Okay, do remember these things, that the Deccan Plateau of India is made up of basalt rock. These rocks are very hard and compact, okay, and these rocks do not have any remains of animals or plants, and these rocks do not allow water to percolate through them as well, okay. And valuable minerals such as iron, gold, silver, and aluminium are found in these rocks. So this was all about the igneous rocks. Coming on to the metamorphic rocks, because we have already discussed that the peninsular plateau is made up of igneous and metamorphic rock. So metamorphic rocks are actually igneous or sedimentary rocks, okay, which have been changed due to excessive heat and pressure inside the earth. Excessive heat and pressure can change the original properties of rocks, such as their color, hardness, texture, and mineral composition. And such changed rocks are called the metamorphic rocks. And the act of metamorphism takes hundreds of years, okay. And some what happens in due course, limestone can change into marble, shale into slate, granite into gneiss, and sandstone into quartzite, and so on, okay. In these rocks, gems can be found in these particular rocks, in the metamorphic rocks. And these rocks, uh, they have very hard and have high specific gravity as well. These rocks do not have empty spaces in them as well, okay. So this was all about the igneous and the metamorphic rocks. Do remember one thing which I have discussed, that the Deccan Plateau of India is made up of basalt rocks, okay. So coming on to the central highlands, that the central highlands form the northern part. We have already seen that the Malwa Plateau, the Bundelkhand, Baghelkhand, and Chota Nagpur, okay, are they have a series of plateaus. The central highlands have having these plateaus in this region, and these plateaus are made up of hard igneous rocks. All the rivers from central highlands basically join the Ganga from the south. We have already discussed about Chambal, okay, Betwa, Kane, Son. So these are the rivers from the south that joins Ganga and Yamuna, okay. These rivers are basically flowing from central highlands that joins the Yamuna and the Ganga. Coming on to the Deccan Plateau, so Deccan Plateau extends from the Vindhyas in the north, okay. They extends from the Vindhyas in the north. You can see here is the Vindhyas, okay. They extend from Vindhyas in the north to the southern tip of the peninsula. Here is the southern tip, okay, to the southern tip of the peninsula. You can see here the southern tip, okay, Kanyakumari, okay. Here is the southern tip, and it is bounded by the western Ghats and the eastern Ghats, Okay, both these hill ranges meet at the Nilgiri hills. Okay, both these ghats, basically western and the eastern ghats, meets at Nilgiri hills, and there are certain parts of the Deccan Plateau in which certain hills are there. Okay, we'll be discussing about those hills as well. So with the help of the second map, you can see, okay, I'm going to take the name of the hills part by part. Coming on to the northern part of the Deccan Plateau, okay, it has Vindhya ranges, it has the Mahadev Hill. I think you are able to see here Mahadev Hill. Okay, and the Kamur Hills and the Maikala Hills. Okay, the Kamur and the Maikala Hills. Okay, they are basically are in the northern part of the Deccan Plateau. Coming on to Western Ghats. Okay, we'll be talking about the Western Ghats now. Here is the Western Ghats, this side. Okay, so the Western Ghats are also known as Sahyadri. Why it is known as Sahyadri? Because it is having the Sahyadri hills. Why it is called Sahyadri? Basically, Sahyadri means mountain of patience. Okay, so Western Ghats, also known as Sahyadri, is a mountain range that covers an area of 54,000 square miles in a stretch of 990 miles parallel to the western coast of the Indian peninsula. Okay, so that is why Western Ghats is also known as the Sahyadri. And the Western Ghats basically form the western edge of the Deccan table land. Okay, and they run from the Tapi Valley, okay, to Kanyakumari for a distance of 1600 kilometers. Not only this, they have Nilgiri hills, the Nilgiris, the Anamalai, and the Cardamom Hills as well. I think you're able to see here the Nilgiris, the Anamalai, the Cardamom, and others also are there. Doda Betta, okay, and here is, yes, Nilgiris, Anamalai Hills, and Cardamom Hills. Okay, Anaimudi. Talking about the Anaimudi, let me show you on the map of which is given in your book. You'll be able to see here. Okay, here is the Anaimudi. You can see here a triangular symbol is given here. Okay, so Anaimudi is the highest peak in the Deccan Plateau with a height of 2,695 meters. What is the height of the Anaimudi peak? The Anaimudi peak is at a height of 2,695 meter. It is the highest peak in the Deccan Plateau. And coming on to the Eastern Ghats, the Eastern Ghats are broken into small hill ranges by rivers such as Mahanadi, okay, and Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. Let me show you the image of the those rivers as well from with the help of the map given in this book. Okay, I think you are able to see Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. Okay, here is the Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. Okay, so the Eastern Ghats are broken into small hills by the rivers such as Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri, and most rivers of the peninsular India flows into the Bay of Bengal. The Narmada and the Tapi. Okay, let me show you the picture of those rivers as well. Okay, the Narmada, here is the Narmada and the Tapi. Okay, these are the northwestern, these are flowing in the northwestern part of the peninsular India, and these two rivers, Narmada and Tapi, flow into the Arabian Sea, whereas the Mahanadi, the Godavari, the Krishna, and the Kaveri river flow into the Bay of Bengal. And Godavari is the longest river of the peninsular plateau. Which is the longest river of the peninsular plateau? The longest river of the peninsular plateau is the Godavari. Okay, this was all about the peninsular plateaus which we have discussed so far. Okay, in the next video we'll be discussing about the coastal plains and the islands. So, but before ending the module, let us recapitulate what we have learned so far. That the plateaus of the peninsular India are old structures and are composed of igneous and metamorphic rocks. The river Narmada divides peninsular India into two parts, the Central Highlands and the Deccan Plateau. Coming on to the Central Highlands have a series of plateaus such as Malwa, Bundelkhand, Baghelkhand, and Chota Nagpur, and all the rivers from the Central Highlands join the Yamuna and the Ganga. Coming on to Deccan Plateau, the Deccan Plateau is basically the Deccan Plateau extends from the Vindhyas in the north to the southern tip of the peninsula and is bounded by the western and the eastern Ghats. The northern part of the Deccan Plateau has Vindhya Range, the Mahadev Hills, the Kaimur Hills, and the Maikala Hills, and the Western Ghats, which is also known as Sahyadri, have the Sahyadri Hills, the Nilgiris, the Annamalai, and the Cardamom Hills. The highest peak in the Deccan Plateau is Anaimudi with a height of 2695 meter, and the Eastern Ghats are broken by into small hill ranges by rivers such as Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri, and most of the rivers of the peninsular plateau flow into the Bay of Bengal. The Narmada and the Tapi in the northwestern part, however, flow into the Arabian Sea, and the longest river is the Godavari. Okay, so this was all about the peninsular India. With this, I call it a day. Have a nice day, and we'll be meeting soon with the next video on the coastal plains and the islands. Till then, have a nice day. Do read the topics first and then watch the video.